I'd like to call the meeting of the North Highlands Recreation and Park District to order. So the first agenda item is approval of the December 14th meeting minutes. For the record, the January 2018 meeting was canceled, so that's why there was no minutes.
I have a correction to the minutes. On page 3, under C, the first paragraph, it doesn't say what I did. I seconded the motion.
Okay.
So it just says board member Matre.
Okay.
Well, if we want to be technical, you spelled my name wrong too. I'm not getting on Terry back, so
Oh, I'm already there, so it doesn't matter.
mine was only on page 1.
So were there any questions or?
I'll make a motion to approve the amended minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay.
It might be the last
Is
second
there
one
any
yet.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Chairperson's report. We had a special meeting over at Squeezick Park at between 4:30 and 5 today to have a ribbon cutting dedication for the new playground equipment. Weather was perfect out there. Many of the neighborhood children were out there. The playground is just incredible. It's immaculate. And it is the first say they call it inclusive, all-inclusive playground in Northern California. So I would, 4 of my fellow board members were able to be in attendance. So, and I know they would say great things about it. Staff did a great job in securing some grant funding to help finance the new playground, and staff did an excellent job with the short time frame from the grant application to getting the plans done to getting the installation. I think, in less than 4 months, we got everything done. So yeah, excellent job. So I'm so happy. The neighborhood, came out. I don't know if they were formally invited.
We did send invitation.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
But the security fencing went down earlier today, and so it was just incredible to see all the happy children, using every single piece of the playground equipment. So I know it'll bring many years of joy and happiness and good memories out there.
Yeah, kudos to staff. I mean, you did an excellent job. When I drove up today, I actually thought you bussed in a few busloads of kids. So many kids out there. I mean, and if that's what it's going to be like every day, which I think it will be.
I think if we have days like this,
Wow.
I can see that being very well loved.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it accommodated a lot of kids. Even on the spinner, there was
yeah,
more
four
than.
there's 4 seats on the little merry-go-round, and there was like 8 or 10 kids. The bigger kids were running around the outside, making sure it would spin so the
And trying not to step on the kids
would-
that got thrown off.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that happening, but there was all smiles. So
Oh, no, it was all good.
That was Alan pushing them off.
Yeah. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
So, that's all I had, because the other new item that the district has is is going to be in the board report. So does any of my fellow board members?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up one thing to my fellow board members also, is I know we're really early here, but I noticed because I don't know who gets the emails from CSDA, but I get emails like a couple times a week, and they've already started accepting registration for the fall conference. And I would say, what's the big deal? It's so far away. But you can't book a hotel until you register, and then they'll give you the link to the hotel registration. And I know in the past, a lot of these hotels have booked up. And so just kind of an FYI, if people start wanting to think about if they can attend, I believe it's the 3rd or 4th week in September. So, and it's down Indian Wells near Palm Springs, if I remember correctly. Does that sound right? But, yeah.
Can an email go out to the board with the link to the conference?
There's
What
not a
page?
whole lot posted yet about the conference,
But
but,
they still have
but you
the
can
dates.
still, like I said,
Yeah.
they're accepting registrations now.
Thank you. Any other questions?
You know, I'd just like to add on, again, fantastic job out there. I've been in the community almost 50 years now, Streets and Parks, sometimes for a lot of us old timers, you know, it was a real eyesore, if you will, you know, just for various reasons, but just seeing the upgrade, seeing the efforts that were put into it, just, you know, it's a good moment, it's a proud moment to see that those efforts, so hats off, and not just the playground, if you will, but, you know, just seeing that, you know, time was taken also to paint up the benches and the bins around there. I mean, really added a flavor to it that was second to none. And I'll be excited to see that video. So hopefully, you know, Mark, I know you got your little machine once in a while out here, so hopefully maybe one of these times you can put it to good use and see what the video looks like as well. You know, so, but hats off. Really well done.
Including the parking lot.
Yes.
That was pretty awesome.
Well, maybe I want to add something else. So if
I'm sorry, your time's over, man.
no. So promote an event happening. Was it February 24th? Our crab feed
February 24th?
for our
Highland Dolphins
swing team. So please come into the district office, buy your tickets, $45 before the event, $50 at the door in our community center. I went last year, they had the best crab feed of the 3 crab feeds I attended last year. So, and the kids, they kept in crab, so if you like crab, come on down, they'll take
So
care
you're a
of
crab feed aficionado there, or what's the deal?
We're number one.
Yes,
That's what it sounds like.
yes, if there's good crab, I'll tell
I
you.
really like that hat she wears.
Yeah, I have to add,
She is the aficionado, I think.
that's right. Woohoo! So, any other comments? Okay, reports from standing committees, no, did anyone meet? I didn't think so, okay. Administrators reports, so Larry, do you have anything you'd like to
I
add?
do. First of all, and I've spoken to most of the board already. I want to make sure that, you know, I go on record to point out that that grant for that playground would not have happened if it wasn't for Scott. Scott did a fantastic job with it. He brought it to my attention and said, what do you think? And we had to go back and look at our reserves, and because we had to contribute to the cost. The grant picked up 50%. And for the most part, he ran with it from the beginning to the end. But today, that park has been brought up by some of the board members. It looks fantastic. If you had seen that park a couple months ago, it looked very different than it does today. Sean, who you're all familiar with, who's been working for us for 4 months now or so? 4 months. Sean and some of probably all of our maintenance staff have been working in the park, getting it to look nice and putting in a lot of time and effort. Things you didn't see were, the other day I was out there and Sean was not jackhammering, he was using a sledgehammer and busting concrete to reroute irrigation lines, I think, was it?
There's an irrigation repair.
Irrigation repair.
Which is unusual service.
And unless you walked around the park, you would have not noticed in the back that while in the front we had some new concrete pathways, we also have an extension of the pathway in the back, connecting it so everything goes around now. A lot of time and effort went into that, and I appreciate so much everyone's efforts. Mark has been very diligent in helping make today's dedication go off well. Terry, there's not a staff member who hasn't got their fingerprints on it, and I'm very proud of them because This isn't something I'm pushing them at. They are dragging me along. They want to see these things happen, and it's a great situation when you have that happening. And as a side note, I can't remember if it was mentioned, but you've all seen it, the remodeled kitchen in the community center. Sean, boy, I don't know what to say, Eric mainly, and I think probably a couple other maintenance workers helped out, but gutted that building, that room, and you see what it looks like today, and I think that's a serious upgrade from what was in there before. And I think, as I say this, I just want to share with the board that I think this is a sampling showing the board of what we are capable of doing, and we've all talked over the last few years about the need to have someone with a higher skill set on our maintenance crew that could do a lot of things instead of having to contract everything out. And Sean's proven beyond doubt that he's very capable of doing some of the work you've seen. And like I said, I think that's just a start. I know that Scott and Sean are working on developing the deferred maintenance plan, and that means going through all our facilities, all our buildings, and we're going to kind of do it 2 stages. We're going to do one that's going to prepare us for this coming budget, but at the same time, putting together a much longer list of deferred maintenance projects that we can start building and prioritize and start building into our budget every year, so we don't wait for things to break. We get on them and we fix them before things happen, before they start costing us more money. And anyhow, I don't want to get long-winded with it, but I just want to say that it's the changes in just the last year or so, and especially in the last 6 months, it seems very noticeable to me. And a lot of that couldn't happen without Terry and Cindy and others, and Mark and others in the office, who everybody, we can't do, there's nobody can do one thing by themselves right here. It really does take us all to kind of put our fingers in there sometimes, but there are others who are, sort of taking some leadership roles, and I appreciate that very much. And kudos to what you saw out there today, and I think you're going to see more of that coming in the future. Aside from that, I wanted to talk a little bit about SB, your report on the bond measure. Today we received a notice from the state. It now has its official name as Prop 68, and that's going to be the California Drought, Water, Parks, Climate, and Coastal Protection and Outdoor Access for All Act of 2018. And I'll be very brief because we will have more information coming as this comes to the voters in June. It's going to be a $4.1 billion park bond. And it's the largest in the state's history. And as some of you who probably read the information and gone online or read in the papers, this is our first park bond, I think, since 2002.
I was going to say 2 or 3.
Yeah. So and those monies are basically all gone now. The park bond is going to be divided into 3 pieces. One is going to be the California Drought and the Water part, the Clean Water Act, and we're making sure that our inland waterways are clean and usable and being maintained. And then we have the per capita grant. Per capita grant is we will get a fixed amount of money that's based on our population, based on the numbers that were shared with us at a meeting I attended a couple weeks ago. There's 2 per capita elements, and together for us they'd be in the $260,000 range. That's guaranteed money that'll come to us. We've been told, and again, this all has to pass in June, but we would get that likely in the third, certainly by the 4th quarter of next budget cycle. Then the other part, which is the largest part, and that's the competitive grants. And in your board packet, you'll see there's a sampling of how that's been broken out. And the way park bonds work is that they don't release all the money at one time. They do it in basically chunks of money over a period of time, and then they will notify us when they're going to do a release and what it's for. They will set up throughout the state of California various workshops that people like myself can attend, where we find out more about the grant. We find out, is that something our district would be qualified for? And assuming that it is, then I would come back and get board approval to pursue that grant. Some may require some matching contributions, some will not. Which ones come first, which comes second, come what, I have no idea at this point. But I think we're going to hit that cycle like we did in about 2002, where we're going to probably go through a period of 4 to 6, 7, 8 years where we will be able to receive some sort of money through per capita or through competitive grants that can benefit our district. How much money we get, what it was for, I have no idea, but we want to be prepared for it. One of the worst things to do is wait for the money to be released and you find out, okay, do we have a need in that area? We've already got a cheat sheet. We already kind of know where the money's divided up. And so I think what you're going to see over the next year is a requirement that we go back and revisit our park plan, which I think is how old, Scott, 10 years?
Excuse me, the master plan was completed 2006.
2006, so okay, we're over 10 years. We need, at this point in time, we probably can see what parts of it can be updated, how much of it's still relevant. And we then start to need to look at our district needs and start to put together a list of projects that we are going to apply grant money for and start, reinvesting back in the community. So this is a great time. We've gone 7, 8 years now with no park bond money to speak of. And now we're starting that cycle again. So whether the board's still here, whether I'm still here, we have new people, I think it's going to start some exciting times for the district, and we can start to address some of these long-term unmet needs of the district. So anyway, you'll hear more about this. We're already getting requests to provide district support by saying our district is in support of Prop 68. But it's the list of recognized organizations throughout the state of California that are power players in the state. It's quite impressive that are behind this. The governor's behind it as well. We don't know where we're going to show up on the ballot yet. It's always good to be in the front half and not the last half when it comes to bond measures, but that's out of our control because it's random. It's a draw. They just pull them out of a hat, basically. So anyway, we'll find out. We'll have more information, and it'll be continuing probably every board meeting. We'll give you some sort of update. As board members, you individually can certainly support the Bond Act. You can't, as a group, we can't put any money towards it. We can't pass any resolutions towards it. But there are some things that we can do to support it, and I'll bring those back as we get closer to the election. But anyway, I want to share that with you. It's great news. We tried this for like the last 3 years, and Governor Brown has shot it down, and this time he got fully behind it. So wonderful, wonderful news. And I think there was one more thing I had. If not,
I have one
Sure.
small question on the bond. Is that a majority vote or 2/3?
2/3.
2/3.
So, when we did the one in 2002, I believe it was, the state passed it by 78%. So it was overwhelming. And again, they're very smart people who put these together. It's the old adage of make sure there's a little something in it for everybody. It's actually kind of heavy, more weighted towards Southern California for the water component, and that's where the voters are. So they always try to make it a little bit of everything for everybody to hopefully get everybody to see something's in it for them to support it, but it will require 2/3.
All right, Scott. Or did anyone have any questions?
Well, I actually have a question on the fiscal report. I don't know if you want to do that now or last. Actually, not a question, more of a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, let you know we got our taxes, our first reported taxes.
Well, that's what I was going to kind of clarify something, because if everyone sees this, you're going to say 63%. That means for next year, if we get 63%. So what happened was, because of the new federal income tax law, a lot of people went and paid their second installment in the end of December. So that apportionment came through on the 63%. So our next apportionment is going to be quite a bit smaller than that. I mean, it could be, 40%. So don't assume that it's going to be double what we
No,
got.
I know that.
Yeah, but a lot of people didn't realize that apportionment included the extra money, because normally it would have only included as of December 10th. but they actually included everything through December 31st.
Oh, but
And by-
the 30th, and there were a lot of taxpayers coming in
Yeah, the
to
last couple
pay
days,
their
right.
April 10 bill early. I mean,
Right.
you did not want to be anywhere on the first floor of 700 H Street.
Yeah, so, but again,
It
of
was
course,
that
it
bad.
went through December 31st.
Yeah, okay.
Now, by comparison, I went back and looked at last year and the year before. When we got the first property tax report, you know, we get the first one in January, the second one in April, I believe. We've been averaging 58%.
Right.
So it appears the difference of people who prepaid is about 5%.
Right.
So you can do the math and see that,
For-
yeah, it's probably going to be reflective of that much less when it comes to age.
Just so you know, countywide, from all jurisdictions, $68 million was prepaid.
Wow.
Wow.
Right. So, I just found this out this afternoon, so it's news time.
Does anyone else have any questions? Scott, do you have anything you'd like to highlight?
You guys have been so generous with your praise on the Squeezy project and the kitchen project. I just want to take a minute to thank the board for your support of those projects and the funding for those projects, but especially the Healthy Play initiative. That kind of came out of left field, and thanks to Diane for bringing it to our attention. And I've said many times, it was a wild ride from application to breaking ground. That's not a lot, 4 months is not a lot of time.
No reason.
And you stepped up and approved the funding for it, and I think the results speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Our task now becomes to utilize the park to the fullest, to keep the park safe, keep it clean, keep it maintained, to fix what gets broken, hopefully not too much stuff will get broken, and just keep it at that level. I think that's really the mindset the entire maintenance staff has kind of adopted is raising our game to keep things at a certain level for the district. And so I do appreciate the support of the board in that project. And I will make special mention of not just Sean, because he's sitting here, but the entire maintenance staff. When you have your park maintenance supervisor, your facility maintenance supervisors out there breaking concrete and blowing out pathways, knowing that the finish line was today for the park to look as best as it possibly could, then you know the team has bought into the vision. So, and that was gratifying to see as a supervisor. So, other than that, if there's any questions about my written report, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
I mean, everyone did an excellent job. You think, also Alex Druzik, new parking lot. And that does, even you go, parking lot. But, going down Boulevard to get to DJ, you went through Twin Rivers property over there. I mean, there was one humongous pothole I think a VW boat could have fell into if I'm honest. So you really had, so you look at that and you see, wow, we have this brand new, because I drove out last night to see what it looked like, because it was really exciting, from the drawings, from the photos, highlighting it, encouraging people to come out to the new park, and I mean.
Yeah, that parking lot, if you recall when we did the lot at Cape Park, in fact, the lot here out in front of our office building, those were during the warmer summer months, and those were slurry seals, which is, kind of a fresh coating with fresh paint. This is a product called Bondi Fiber. It's a reinforced asphalt that is super strong, super resilient, and should last us a long, long time. So, this was the time of year to use a product like that, and we have a contractor we're comfortable working with now on those type projects. So it all came together quickly, and he did a wonderful job. So we were really pleased with it.
And then Sean, oh my goodness, that kitchen in there was it pretty much original to what was there before? Because I think I've only been in the kitchen like one time, the old one. So was it pretty much, like early 80s
I would say
stuff?
that was
Pretty
probably the
original?
original kitchen.
Yeah,
That you
original.
Put it in.
Except for the floor.
Except for the floor, it had an extra layer on the top.
Yeah. But it is fantastic. I mean, you and your team did a beautiful job, and I know when
I really
we,
could have done without Eric and the guys' help. I mean, Sergio gave you additional help when you took some guys from the park and gave you their hand. So that's what made it get done in a timely manner also. We got a window to work with, we got some books, so.
Right, and I mean, for our groups that, rent it out annually and, anyone having a special event, I know they're going to really be impressed with, that upgraded kitchen there. It's really beautiful. Yeah. Anyone have any questions for us?
So I do. I'll piggyback on that kitchen. I mean, when we had, the Christmas thing here, I did stick my head in there and look and see how it looked in and how it looks now, and it's just, yeah, wow, marvelous job. Great job there. But what I had for you, Scott, was these ADA height toilets. Is this something that's mandated for us to do throughout our district, or is it because we did a remodel, we just figured, hey, let's...
No, it actually kind of was an offshoot of the remodel because we had moved some groups around and some of the participants from a few of our senior programs mentioned that the comfort level in the community center wasn't as good as the comfort level in the recreation center.
Yeah,
So, Sean went into it, he goes, I think we're probably, we need to upgrade those. They'll be a little taller and
Right.
they will be ADA compliance.
oh, I think it looks good. I was just curious if someone
Yeah.
came in and said, hey, we got...
It was more self-reporting and then fixing a problem quickly, which again, Larry mentioned, it's the benefit of having, an in-house contractor basically that knows what he's doing and knows how to get things done and in a matter of just a few days.
He definitely knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
No doubt.
so far. Yeah, but we got those installed and we put some new handicap bars and things like that into just to finish the project.
Sean's still on probation, so we're keeping
We
that.
don't want them to get too big.
All right, Mark.
Recreation report. January was a really busy month for us. Bless Sarah's heart, she's balancing so many different things and doing a fantastic job. One program I do want to highlight is we're doing our first dodgeball for Twin Rivers, and it has been a huge success. The children have really enjoyed it. It's been safe, it's been fun. The best thing about it is they don't have to practice to be good at it. Any kid can compete in it. It's something that we're going to be looking at probably expanding it down the road in the future, maybe even for adults. But kind of progressing that way, we found I think a really good niche with that league. And the second thing I'll highlight too, we've got coming up here in February is our new recreation guide. So this year we combine the spring activities and also the summer activities. So the next recreation guide you're going to get is going to be, I think it's 12 pages. Probably the biggest recreation guide we've produced since I've been in charge of it. So you guys should be getting that in the mail sometime next week. It went to press, no, you won't get it.
We don't get it.
Yeah, we don't.
It went to press last week, or I'm sorry, yesterday. So it should be sent out. So look in the mail for you guys in the recreation guide.
For those who didn't get it, we'll make sure that when we get it, we'll mail you a copy.
Well, that or next.
You just
for
next,
me
you
is
don't have to
fine.
mail it, just next.
Yeah.
We
next
actually
week.
expanded, so hopefully you do get it.
We'll let you know.
To different, yeah. Because we're only doing one guide, we wanted to make sure it went to. Because in the old past, we can only send out so many different routes, but this year we actually upped our routes. Because actually it's too.
We'll let you know that because I get Sunrise Park District stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sunrise, and about a year ago, I got one from Rio Linda, Elverta.
Oh, I
I
like
was
that.
pretty, well,
I said it in the box, you weren't looking.
Yeah, yeah.
If you guys have any questions on my report, one of those will answer.
I do.
Okay.
Like I said, I talked to you earlier, my grandson's into basketball. I was talking to Sarah today
All right.
and telling her, I mean, he's 5 years old or 7 years old in the first grade. He's having the time of his life. Even though these kids are bigger than he is, and he's still just getting on that court running, saying, throw me the ball, throw me the ball.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that hour just is phenomenal for him. I mean, Sarah has been out there both Saturdays now, they're monitoring. I didn't even know her arm was in a cast until today, because she always had a sweatshirt on, she
Right.
said. So, but it's well organized. I like it, there are a lot of parents there. You know, seating, it's either you get, if you get lucky, get there early, get in the front row there, and, but you got the bleachers, no, it's a good deal.
Now, the second and third grade, it's pure chaos, but it's a lot of fun to watch it. They love playing. The thing about Sarah, too, is she's so dedicated to being out there. I didn't know she was going out last Saturday, but she just wants to see it and be a part of it, support staff. It's one thing I really appreciate about her. She always shows up to things and I tell her, like, no, go home to your family, enjoy your family time. But she wants this, she wants to succeed, which is so, it's rewarding to her when she sees the programs herself. It's inspiring, I think, to our staff, and happy to have her part of it. And I'm glad you appreciate her being out there and you noticed it.
Like I said, it's just nice having grandkids now that are old enough
Oh, yeah,
to get them in things and,
put it out there.
yeah, keep them busy.
Yeah.
So does anyone have any questions or comments of Mark? So Larry would like to pass along some more information.
Sure, I just had, it's in your report, but I just wanted to touch on it a little bit. A week and a half ago, I met with Brian Spillman from Silverado Homes and Kevin Leamy from the Furman Leamy Land Group. Kevin's group is the firm designing the park. And we were looking at our time frame. As you know, the park will begin construction once 50% plus one of the permits have been pulled. And that would be 123, 225 homes, so 123. That triggers Silverado Homes, who's doing a turnkey project, essentially to building the park on our behalf for us, per our design. So we wanted to get an idea where things are at. Brian from Silverado Homes advised us that things are actually going at a pace that they're very comfortable with. They've, as I think that day we met, they had pulled 82 permits. No, pulling the permit and building the home and then selling the home and occupying the home, or there's a little time gap in between there. But I'm going to, next board meeting, I'm going to give you more detail. But what they're projecting out, just to give you an idea of where we're at, it looks like that it's possible that the park construction, based on the current rate of selling the homes and pulling permits, park construction will begin sometime next fall. We're estimating about a 3-month build period. However, it is possible, again, depending upon how busy Silverado Homes contractors are with their homes that they got to build, but it's possible they may start the grading process before then, which then would shrink the construction time frame. We're also getting into a little bit of the rainy season. Okay, we had a rainy season. That could have some impact on it. And these are just rough dates I'm giving because there's so many things that could change them. If we did a 3-month build and the park was built, say, around January of this time next year, so basically a year from now it will be finished. Our contract, our development agreement with Silverado Homes is they have a 160-day maintenance period where for the first, once the park has been constructed, they are responsible for maintaining all the landscaping, the park, the entryway, the street landscaping. They're responsible for the first 4 months, 160 days. Once we hit that 160th day, then operations turn over to our district. So if you start doing the math, it's possible that the 4th quarter of next year's budget, we may be having taken over the maintenance of the park. So, 120, you put 100 contracts, 160. Yeah, correct. I thought it was 120, so 160. So anyhow, that's just a rough idea that if things progress as they're going now, they're very pleased with how the homes are selling, and they're pulling permits for their next phase. If you get a chance to drive over there, you can see a lot of things happening. A lot of homes are occupied, or some homes are occupied. But anyway, that's the trigger. So we're hoping next fall we can begin construction. We're hoping that around December, January-ish in that time frame, the park may be completed if we don't have any delays. And then a 4-month period after that, then we would take over maintenance of the park. And there's other things that trigger that got to go along with this as well. that we've been working with the county on as far as the budget, making sure that everything's in place, so that when we take it over, we've already begun collecting the special taxes for maintenance. So yeah, every month I'm going to update you a little bit more and kind of make sure you're always in the loop. And as things change, you'll be the first ones to hear about it.
So what it sounds like, 2019, 2020, that fiscal year is when CFD is going to start the assessment. Does that sound right then?
Well, I talked to from SCI,
Right.
and you know, we have to make a determination so the county knows what
Right.
begin collecting. We'll actually come back to the board with a resolution in June, this June,
Right.
to authorize begin collecting the special tax, because we need to start collecting the tax.
Right, well, that's
in
what I'm
advance.
going with.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that when we take it over, we have some money in the bank to provide the services. And as you know, we have to obviously invest in some equipment as well, since that's another significant addition to our maintenance. So, but in talking to SCI, they'll come back, establish a resolution for board review and approval in June. That will then trigger the county to begin assessing the special taxes.
I know SCI knows what they're doing, but I know the county does have a hard deadline of when we have to give them the green light for the assessment.
Yeah, I would like to tell you that this has been a smooth issue, transition, but it hasn't been. I've talked to probably everybody in the county, and I think I found the right person who happens to be not in the finance department, but actually in the engineering department. Her last name is Kodani.
Okay, well, I know who to talk to get it on the tax bill.
Well, what we're trying to do is find out who's going to help us make sure that when we get our budget information, we also get the forms with the new accounts. And Dorothy's been very helpful. She's on vacation this week, but she says that when she gets back, she'll have that information for me. So we're still way ahead of the game.
Yeah, we are.
But we want to make sure, I want to make sure that it's done ahead of time, all ready to go. And so that when the time comes, certainly the county needs to know once they start collecting the special tax, where that money goes. It just doesn't necessarily won't go into one fund. We have to know how much is spread out as it comes in.
Right.
And that's where SCI comes in, because
Well,
that's what.
but the CFD, that's all going to go into one fund, correct?
Right, and then we need to have that, and SCI is going to help us decide how much is going to go into the various accounts.
Right, I will go ahead and talk to the person I know just to kind of get a rough date on when he says we need that information, because I think like I said, it is right around the beginning of July.
Right.
All right,
Yeah, that's what we're trying to get a hold of now, so,
Okay.
yeah, if you have a name, please forward it.
all right.
Anyway, that's the other.
All right, Terry, you have me. I didn't want to leave you out. Okay, correspondence, we don't have. Do we have any comments and reports from citizens or organizations that is not on the posted agenda? Okay, well, thank you for coming though. It was good to see some guests.
I would like to make a comment.
Sure.
Is it something that's on our agenda, or is it something off agenda?
Just something not on the agenda. Well, it's about the park.
That's coming up on our agenda,
Okay.
so that's when you get to chat.
You got it?
Yeah. Thank you. Item 9, unfinished business, none. Item 10, new business, appointment of board committees for 2018 calendar year. Well, no one sent me a message saying which committees they want to be on, so
Well, I thought we decided we were just gonna stay.
Well, it's her call.
it's my call, it changes every year.
Oh, okay.
But since we,
Did you
since
just take me off and I'll just
No, no, no,
oversee?
So since January's meeting was canceled, that's what we're doing in February. But I kept everyone on the same committee, so unless anyone has any objections to that,
Good.
you know, if everyone's happy with their committees, we'll keep everyone on the same committees for 2018. All right, thank you.
I think I do have a comment on something else. There's a park on Elverta. I haven't lived here that long. It's,
Can you actually go up to the podium so he can get you? Thank you.
there's a park on Elverta that they play baseball at, and the field looks like it needs some attention. And I just wondered if this is probably the right place to ask for something to take a look.
Alberta and where,
Vernon,
you know?
where-
It's past Watt, if you're coming from Elverta, on Elverta, coming to Antelope, and it's on the right-hand side. You pass Watt, passing where Walmart is, and a little further up on the right-hand side, there's a small park. And it looks like there are 3 baseball fields in the park.
Is that Sunrise's
That
district?
sounds like Sunrise Park District.
That's the center.
Sunrise Park, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they're,
you're right on the border.
Okay.
yeah, and I don't know when their board meetings are, but isn't their district office over at Rush Park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Just,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you, because,
Appreciate
yeah, if there was any concerns about any of our parks in our district, please feel free to.
Just so you know, our park boundaries go from 28th Street on the west side,
Gotcha.
Elverta, and then primarily Watt Avenue. So Walmart, that whole area, and where the new development is ours, but everything past that is Sunrise Park District.
Yeah, on the north side.
It's very interesting and very challenging. We have, instead of having one county board of supervisors representing our district, we have 3.
We have 3.
Because it touches all 3 of their boundaries. So it's always interesting where things are at.
But thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you for the
thank
information.
you.
It's just that it could use a little bit of attention.
If it was us, we'd be on it.
Thank
Well, Scott would be.
Okay, next, item 10B, calendar year 2018 investment policy for the pool investment fund. So, in our packet was this, the county's annual investment policy and pool investment fund. So we need to vote tonight to receive and file this annual report that was approved by the Board of Supervisors in December 2017. So, Alan, do you want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Pedro was asking some questions before the meeting. So, since we are included in the county's pooled funds, that's where our money goes. We don't do our own investment. This is something by state code that we have to do every year. We being now putting my other hat on for the county. And actually on page 3, about 2/3 of the way down, it says monthly, the review group. I'm actually part of that review group. So I look at the county's investments every month to make sure, on our behalf too, that everything's okay.
That was hopefully making money. This little
Yeah.
dip that we had in the stock market was just,
The little dip that we had in the stock market over the last week really does not affect the county because of the type of investments we do.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's, yeah.
Our interest we draw off this is so minute.
Well, right, see, I mean, I mean, if anybody really is wanting to, if you read the whole, investment policy, you can see what the county can and can't invest in. So I'll put on even a third hat, being a member of the retirement board, we can invest in so much more than the county can. I mean, it's phenomenal, some of the stuff the retirement board invests in. I mean, we have limited partnerships, we own a couple of apartment buildings, I mean, it goes on and on. So it really depends. The county, of course, we're much more conservative, we have to be, after what happened in Orange County in the 90s, we don't mention anything. But, it's all pretty much here, and, I'm actually one that every month reviews it to make sure we're following the policy. So that's kind of it, that's why we get it, and anybody in the pool gets this sent to them every year. So, anybody have any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Okay, I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Second that.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10C, Alberta Park and Gaming. So the board is going to hopefully take action tonight to name the future park at the Elverta Park development. So Larry,
Yeah, as the board
Before I started, but I guess before we begin, I guess I should step out because I have a vested interest in this. So I will just.
I don't know if he has an interest that he'd have to step out. I mean, even though he's gonna possibly own a house there, he doesn't gain anything from this, does he?
I also don't think my.
Where's our attorney?
Well, being he's he's in contract for a home.
Yeah.
But he has no financial
He has no financial
interest
gain.
in what we're doing.
Right.
There's no money.
You don't gain anything by what we name the park, unless we name it Zach Smith Park.
That's true.
I would be comfortable with Zach.
I mean, it's your call, Zach, but I don't know if it's something.
Yeah, because it really ties up to what, if you have a financial
Right.
interest,
Yeah.
you have no.
You're not gaining anything by what we're doing.
If we were buying property from you for
Right.
a park, then we'd have a different.
Yeah, that's a little different.
So anyhow,
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Right, all right.
So we'll let it.
I may abstain from this vote, but I'll.
You,
Okay.
so as everyone knows, from day one, the development is called Elverta Park, and the working name for the park has been Elverta Park. And as I shared with the board, the name would be the working name until we come to the point where we, the board, would decide what the official name of the park is going to be. And we've offered, as the board recommended to the staff, come up with some ideas. As you know, the theme of the development is cherries. I looked at every street name in that park, and there are cherry names I've never heard of before, but I looked them all up, and they're all cherries. So we kind of, staff, our recommendations are the names that we've shared for possible consideration for the board, stay with that theme of cherries. However, you are under no obligation to stay with the theme of cherries. Outside of calling it, Zachary Smith Park, you probably could call it whatever you like to call it, but we just stayed with the theme. Again, the reason for selecting the name at this point is we start developing some construction documents and things, and we start putting the name of what the park is going to be. Part of the development will be and I'll share this with the board at the next meeting, a 5.5-foot precast sign. It's been suggested by one of the board members that maybe we could have an emblem or something put into the sign that, and I'm just making this up, if you decided to call it something to do with cherries, we could have cherries as an insert that comes with these precast built signs. All the stuff we need to kind of know a little bit ahead of time, and the developer said that rather than continue to call it the park or Elverta Park, having it as a name, then they can start putting in the documents, material they hand out to potential parties that are interested in buying a house there. It now has a name attached to it. So other than that, there's probably no strong reason for you to name it now, but certainly the developer has asked us the sooner that we do, the better. And so what we prepared for you tonight is some potential names with the cherry theme, but at this point, it's up to the board to decide what you would like to do.
Did any of the members of the audience want to come up to the podium if were you here because of the name of the park? Yes, yes we are. Okay.
Well, come on up to
Come on up.
the podium without a microphone.
Or if you take turns, go as a group, to one of you, that's fine.
Hours enough.
I think Elverta Park kind of works for everybody, I mean, from what I hear, our neighbors, so if we have different names.
And I'll tell you why I don't like that, because right next to you is Elverta Park District. And people are gonna think that they're part of that park district, all right? That's the problem.
It's real in Elverta
It's
Park.
real in the Elverta Park District.
Okay.
And if we're gonna call it Elverta Park, everyone's gonna think it's part of that park district.
Oh, I see.
Right.
So it'll be kind of
Yeah.
become lost.
Do you have any good names? What good names you came up with?
Well, they have a bunch of cherry names,
I can
actually.
share this with you if you like.
Sure.
Keep in mind that we did decide not to go too far with this, because you really go far with this. Cherry Park, Cherry Hill Park, Bait Park, Cherry Blossom Park, Cherry Neighborhood Park, Cherry Grove Park, and Cherry Branch Park.
Now, I have a question before they get back. So if we go with one of these, is the thought to plant a bunch of cherry trees there?
That issue has come up. I reached out today to Kevin Leamy, and Kevin was not available today, so I went online to find out that I was amazed. Well, first of all, if we were to put cherry trees in the park, I certainly would not want fruit-bearing trees
Right.
in the park. You don't
Flower.
put fruit-bearing trees in the park. You want, fruitless trees.
Right.
I was surprised to find out there are 27 different varieties of cherry trees that do not bear fruit. And then you have to look at the zone area where
Where
they
they're gonna
thrive
grow.
in. There is a number of them that would be able to be planted in the park. Going forward, and I can't say it's next month, it's probably a few months down the road, I would come back to the board with what we call a planting plan. The planting plan is going to call out, because I think there's going to be over 100 trees planted in the park. It's going to call out the number of trees, the size of the trees, the variety of the trees, certainly the location of the trees, and then also all the plant material for, the flower gardens and those kinds of things. All that will be called out there. What we would do is, if there was an interest of the board to be assured that we have some cherry trees that are part of the park, then I would contact the Kevin Levy and tell him that when you start looking at your plant plan, to start to include some of those in there. The other side of it is too, there's the ornamental cherry trees also come in pink and they come in white, and you might want a mixture of both. But that is a step that's probably a couple steps down the road. But yes, there are non-fruit or ornamental cherry trees that do thrive in California and up here. Again, finding the right ones that would probably do best is something I would leave up to Kevin to do his research on. But yes, we can.
All right, thank you.
Because on the record, I was looking at the inquiry. Because I had a flower preference. So, not necessarily leaf color preference. So, all right. So with that information, does anyone out in the audience like to come up and make any comments, suggestions?
Oh, I don't want this to be a.
It's okay. You don't mind.
I didn't think I have to do that in everybody's view, but anyway. Hello, Mark, I know Mikey's been in this program a couple of times, and we're actually in this neighborhood now, and I actually thought, I've heard Elverta since you guys brought it up, so would that maybe even Cherry Hill, since there's no hill, so maybe Cherry Hill would be a good idea. And another thing I thought, if you guys come up with something like would have maybe basketball court for kids, because there's a lot of boys would be in this neighborhood.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, what did you say?
Basketball courts.
Yes, I agree with them. That was what I
Yeah,
said.
we have a lot of
Maybe
boys
even a
right
half
now
a
running
court.
around, and there's actually, everybody's gonna know if there's gonna be any basketball courts. So, to see if you have any idea for that.
I can comment on that. First of all, thank you for coming and sharing that. I don't know how long you've been residents of Elverta Park.
6 months.
6 months, okay. The design process started a while back, and where we're at now is, yes, can we make changes to the design? Because it's in conceptual form right now. Yes, we can. We had tossed around an idea earlier on, 4 months ago, I guess, 3 or 4 months ago, about a basketball court. There are some reasons probably why you would want to consider that. The very things you brought up. The things that you want to be very careful of is that the park is bordered on 3 sides by residents. And one side clearly would not put a basketball court in, because that's I think it's 3 lots that back right into the park. So the question is, if you put a basketball court in there, you're going to want to keep it farther away from the homes, because people don't want to hear, some people don't want to hear talking the basketballs. And certainly
or 11 o'clock at night.
the lighting too, we are going to have security lighting in the park. We want to make sure that we don't have the type of security lighting that's going to provide enough light on the basketball court that encourages kids to say, because I know my kid, if it was this much light, that was enough light to play basketball in. So what I could do, if the board has an interest to at least pursuing it, to find out where we could possibly fit in a basketball court. Now, when I'm talking about basketball court, we're probably talking about a half court. Yeah, we could not put in a full court there. And I could talk to Kevin to see where he could, read, it's probably the large grassy area that you're familiar with. I don't think we have a copy of that with us today in the packet. But at the rear of the park, towards the detention pond, Scott, do you remember how many, is that like about half an acre? About a half an acre of turf. So it's possible something could be located in there, which in a way is probably the best location, because it's farther enough away from the children's play area, the picnic tables, and those type of things, yet it's very visible. So if the board has an interest in having me contact Kevin, I certainly can do that. There's, the worst thing he's probably going to tell us is, okay, it's going to cost you a little bit more money, but what the total cost of the park won't be known until we actually go out to bid on the material supplies and equipment. Silver Road Homes is doing the actual groundwork. So if that's an interest of yours, we can do that.
I had one other thing to say. I know you were saying that you were thinking about putting a little extra money into the equipment here. Maybe we could take some of that money and put it into a basketball court. It's just that I really, believe me, I'd rather put in money for everything. Okay, and I have no problem with coming out of my pocket either. Because I think children's where we should put the money. But just as much as we gotta take care of the little ones, the ones that are a little bit bigger in between, we want to keep them and they're doing the right thing. And sports, to me, at least for a lot of people, is the right thing. And that's why we're thinking that.
He's referencing the additional playground options that I passed out. Those, when we get to that point, then I can certainly weigh in on that a little bit more.
No, I'd like to find out the half-court basketball. My only concern,
Now, are all three of you living in Elverta Park, or will be? Okay.
yeah, my only concern is the noise for the surrounding houses of kids playing basketball. Because I know kids on my street that have a hoop on the street, they play at midnight sometimes.
Yeah, and I have that with the hoop that's in front of the house next door to me. I mean, it doesn't bother me because I'm nocturnal, but they're having a good time, they're keeping out of trouble, but I can also understand that if your house is against that park, you wouldn't want that after 9 or 10 o'clock at night, especially if you gotta wake up for work.
I would think earlier, and it's HOA, so they can put in rules like that, maybe at 6 o'clock, so that it wouldn't go past.
Well, technically, it's not an HOA. I mean, you don't have a homeowners association in there.
We do, that's what I'm saying, it is a homeowners
You do now?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm saying, because
the community facilities district, but they have a,
It's a Melrose.
right, that's a CFD. It's really not,
I was told it was different than Melrose.
no, that's what I'm saying. This is the first I'm hearing about that then.
So I'm just saying, you might be able to put those kind of rules in, 6 o'clock, that's it, no bicycle.
But the issue is you're not a gated community, so anybody else can drive in and use, I'm not saying that's gonna happen,
Right.
but you can have
So I'm
some,
saying signs up saying,
right,
just like anything else, putting rules in,
Right.
rules 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, no more use of the
So
basketball.
if I could suggest, I'll contact Kevin.
okay.
And I'm assuming that he would be able to turn this around and bring some schematic
Yeah.
drawings out that we could share at the next board meeting in March. And, because really, the park itself is about 2.75 acres, 2 3/4 acres. Of that, 2 1/4 acres are programmed. Those are already playgrounds and sidewalks and hardscape and all those things that you see in the park. It's about that half acre of turf area.
Right.
And I think that, again, I don't know how familiar everybody is with but if you're going down the main road,
Bing Street, right?
is it Bing?
Yeah.
And you go all the way to the end and Bing stops, and
Right.
the park is on your left-hand side. I would think that, and it's that end part that would be where the grass turf area is.
Right.
If it was something that could be located in the back into that, in the front of the retention pond
Right.
area, then the only people that's likely to bother are the ones across the street from the park.
And it's still gonna be far from the actual.
Well, again, I think that we have to wait to see where the landscape architect can cite it, because there might be some other things that we have to worry about. We also have some above ground drainage
Right.
issues, so that we want to make sure that that doesn't cause a problem. But again, if we're looking at a half court, we're probably, we're looking at something not much bigger than this room.
Right.
So it's something that might be able to be cited in there, but let me talk to Kevin, and then I'll have him bring some drawings back at the March meeting. Please come back at our March meeting, and then we'll be able to see them. We'll have the architect here to be able to show what that would look like, and what the estimated cost would be.
We really appreciate it. I mean, definitely just to even look into it, we really appreciate it. If it can't be done, it can't be done, but at least to put in.
Well, that's why we wanted to invite folks
Yeah.
from.
Right.
you
A
know,
little bit for, like we're saying, just for the kids that are a little bit older, and we know where they are.
Yeah, absolutely, I totally agree with you. I mean, both my kids grew up in the same general area, and so I know how that is.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
There will be no restrooms, right? Just want to make sure.
Was there any?
You want restrooms, or you
No,
don't?
we do not want restrooms.
Okay,
We
good.
don't want any homeless people to get out there.
There is no restroom. It's a neighborhood park. Neighborhood parks do not have restrooms. And the board has heard the pros and cons of this before. The problem we are actually stubbing out utilities on the site, so in the future, if the demand is there for restrooms, we have the ability to put them in without tearing up the park. So all the water, the sewer, everything will be already connected there. You won't see it, but we'll have clear access to it if we ever in the future, the board or the community decided we wanted a restroom. The reason you wouldn't put it in is because it is a neighborhood park, and for the very reason you don't want people hanging out in the restroom, you don't want homeless out there. The downside to that is where you're gonna get people who are gonna want it. If you live towards the
Elverta Road.
Yeah, Elverta Road, and you visit the park, and you've got little 3-year-old Johnny and 5-year-old sister, they gotta go to the bathroom. Mom is gonna have a problem saying, get in the car, we gotta race back down the road. Trust me, all the plant material is gonna be so new, it's not gonna hide anybody from going to the bathroom. The trees aren't gonna be big enough. But that's always been the pros and cons to neighborhood parks and restrooms. And generally speaking, neighborhood parks are centered in the middle of a development, or towards the middle of a development. That wasn't working out for the developer. Because we had this retention pond, the requirements of the retention pond, it really drove the park to the end of the park. And again, if you live across the street, wonderful. If you live, towards Elverta, then those parents will be here probably in front of the board saying, why didn't you put a restroom in there?
Right.
So it's a damned if you do and a damned if you don't type of thing, but right now, there is no restroom plan for the site, but again, we don't know what's gonna happen in the future, so we are including all the utilities to put one in, so that way, if we ever decide to do it, we're not tearing up the park, trenching, putting water lines in and things, they're already gonna be there.
Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you. Any more questions or concerns? So,
By the way, welcome to the community.
yes, and don't, if you haven't done so already, please sign in on our sign-in sheet in the back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That way, we'll do a direct mail to you and send information to you by the next board meeting as well.
Okay.
And you'll
Now,
like the school district if you haven't got to know them yet.
okay,
Sorry. Oh, yeah, he's a teacher in the school district.
So, does anyone have any, since we're here to name the
Okay,
park,
so-
so it seems like we would like to,
I know.
or maybe, or add amenities unless we want to talk about that.
Well, that's actually the next
Indeed.
agenda item, so.
Yeah,
On
so,
the park naming, so first, I read page 1 first of all the names that came out to. Before I got to the second page, I thought, what do I like out of that? And I actually like the one that staff came up with. That's my own preference.
Which was that?
Jared Lawson Park.
I did too. I gotta admit that, I even said that.
Yeah, I mean, I went through and it's like,
I must, I said Cherry Blossom.
and,
that was Terry came up with that, I think.
I go, before I read the recommendation, I thought, Cherry Neighborhood Park, but then that does sound kind of boring. And then when I saw cherry blossom, I go, well, you know, wouldn't it be nice to have some ornamental blooming cherry trees?
Well, that's
you
why I
know,
asked if that's the plan.
So, and I prefer pink over white, and then the color of
Yeah,
these, I know they come in, you know, red and green, and that's not as important as, maybe in April or May, there's
Well, we
nice.
could tear the assignment to find all different colors.
No, I prefer like all pink, because it's really cool when you have a row of pink cherries, and you have pink petals out there,
That's all.
so,
Well, I'll make a motion to go ahead and name it Cherry Blossom Park.
I'll second that motion.
okay, so is there any comment or further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And then one abstention, so, Cherry Blossom Park, please.
All right.
And thank you for having.
I hope you like that,
on-
Cherry Blossom Park.
On the cherry trees.
You were here.
At least for now. See,
No, I think that's great. I think that's fantastic.
And thank you for, sharing your input.
I would really appreciate you guys doing, of course, what you guys do. And, but, yeah, like I said, the reason why we're down here is to just watch out for our little bit older. I have kids in middle school and his son, and we're just trying to do the best for them.
Yeah, come every month until this thing gets resolved, just to make sure that you don't miss what's going on. Because most likely, we're gonna be talking about stuff almost every month. Would you think so, Larry, this month?
Yeah, this one, yeah.
Thank you.
Do you all have the pictures?
They've got some color.
Okay.
You need it?
We're definitely interested in feedback on that as well.
So right now, we're on MD, the Elverta Park Children's Playground Equipment Selection. So Larry, what do you need from us?
Well, just
tonight?
a quick background for those who aren't familiar. The park is budgeted at $900,000. Construction drawings and budget estimates are at 75%. So we haven't gotten into the detailed drawings yet. So the conversations we're having today about potential basketball courts and playgrounds, this is the time for discussion. What you have in your packet is some play, and I'm sorry they're in black and white, but Miracle Play Systems option number 1, 2, and you can also see they're for age categories 2 to 5 and 5 to 12. And then we got a second manufacturer, Berliner, and you can see that very different. Remember we had a conversation a few years back about the kind of the rope type of equipment, and I think we all understand now that they're pretty safe pieces of equipment. But the budget that was set aside for the play equipment is $75,000 for both sides. The last 3 playgrounds that we built have been budgets of 80, 90, 100,
80 to 140.
140. A little bit more substantial than these. So what I asked Kevin to do is to provide some additional options that were a step up and based on $150,000. So again, there's several ways I want the board to think about this. One, if you're happy with the original designs that are in, and you don't have, you have a packet, great. If you're happy with that, then the choice is, do you like the Miracle equipment or do you like the Berliner equipment? And we can go from there. If you have an interest in the colored sets that we provided to you today, which are also Berliner and Miracle, then we want to have a conversation about that because that's going to bump the budget up a little bit. Maybe. And the reason I say maybe is all this equipment is going to go out to bid. So the estimates that are being used are basically based off catalog information from the companies. Generally, you can get a better price on it, but we're going to go out to bid on this equipment. I'd like to provide the board an option is, unless you know exactly what you want, the other option, and it's a safe option, is when we go out to bid, we bid both sets of equipment, the $75,000 equipment and the $150,000 equipment, then wait to see, and it's called an add-on. So what happens is, when the bids come in, if the bids are too high, we can say, let's go with the cheaper play equipment. If the bids come in low and you feel you have a little extra money, we can say, let's put that into the play equipment. The other option that came up today was, you can mix and match these if you want. You could have the Miracle equipment for the 2 to 5, or the Berliner for the older kids, or vice versa. So you have kind of, I know sometimes options are not good because that just gives you more to think about. So again, just to revisit this, what you have in your packet, the black and white copies, that's play equipment that's budgeted at $75,000. The information, and then you actually have a choice of what do they call it? Option 1, option 2. So if we go to option number 1, Miracle Play Equipment, you can see what you're going to get, and that's at what, $30,000, I believe. And then if you go with option 1 from the 5 to 12, you notice that a little different. It's got the kind of the rock formations to it. A little different. It does have a little bit of the rope stuff that the Berliner has. But if you got option 1, it's $75,000 regardless. If you go to Miracle Equipment option number 2, same price range, it's just a little different design equipment for the 2 to 5, and quite a bit different from the 5 to 12. Now we go to Berliner option number 1, and Berliner, as you see, by the way, I should point out Berliner, that's a poured-in-place synthetic. We're not putting that in. That's just for the drawing. That would double our budget right there, just for the pour-in-place material.
Right.
So option number 1 is you see the 2 to 5, and then the 5 to 12. And then behind it, you can see there's kind of some drawings that kind of depict more what it looks like and where it would be placed. And Berliner number 2 is similar type of material. For Berliner option number 2, from the 2 to 5, they've incorporated, as you can see, a fairly long slide, big slide for the young kids. And for the older kids, the 5 to 12. And then for the younger kids, 2 to 5, it's more of the smaller equipment. That one just didn't seem very substantial to me. It just seems like it's not a lot of equipment. So if you look at that, whatever option you pick, the budget's at $75,000. If we go to the color option, you can see that we have, I'm going to the Miracle Play System. You have the 5 to 12. That kind of looks like a lot what we just put in today, and what we could put in a couple of our other parks. It's nice looking, but we've just built several other parks that kind of look like that. For the 2 to 5, similar stuff, just on a smaller scale. And again, the back page is more of a design location where the equipment would go. And then you have the Berliner, which is option number 1, 5 to 12. A little different than what their original option was. And you can see there's a bigger piece in the background a little bit. And again, it's more the ropes, the geodome stuff, some slides incorporated into it. And then you can see kind of the cut pages on the last one, what it actually looks like, and then the design where it would kind of lay out. So I've thrown a lot at you. When I talked to Kevin, I said, Kevin, I've done it in the past where I bid equipment 2 ways and wait for the bids to come in, and then I just selected one. So if somebody's making going to place a bid on this equipment, they're going to bid it for whatever the cost is going to be, and then we can decide. Again, I think where the entire budget comes to. Just so you know, and I want to put this out there, something Brian Spillman from Silverado Homes told us, that several other projects that they've been doing, the bids have been coming in higher, not lower. And that's to be expected when the economy's good. When the economy's good, the people, you know, contractors can pick and choose what they want. When times are tough, prices get cut because people need work. So one thing to keep in mind, if we stay where we're at, again, in this case, you just have to pick which option you want. But it's based on a $900,000 part, but it can come in a little bit lower, it can come in a little bit higher. If we add this in there, we're gonna add $150,000 to the cost. Or another $75,000 to the cost. Before the bids come in. So have I thrown enough at you?
I'm good.
Okay.
I like the Miracle one.
I agree.
I mean, like I was telling Diane earlier,
Yeah.
on this Berliner, I just see more kids getting hurt on it
Yeah.
because their feet getting caught up in it, falling and, you know, breaking a leg. I just,
Okay, Mark, why are you like chuckling over there? I see this little smile on your face.
So there's a Berliner in my neighborhood. The kids do love it, but it is more geared towards older kids.
Okay.
It's very difficult for
The little kids.
the little kids. Like my daughter's 3.5, and she's just now starting to explore the Berliner equipment.
Yeah.
But the older kids do love it because it's a lot more challenge.
And the way it usually works is, younger kids they like to play on their equipment until they see the bigger kids playing on the bigger kids' equipment, and then they venture over to the bigger kids'
Right.
equipment. I've probably installed, not Berliner itself, but I've used companies with the same ropes. Benicia Community Park, we put in probably a $300,000 playground with just that type of material. And boy, we were scared to death because we thought it just looks like it's dangerous, and it really wasn't. I don't know if anybody ever being injured on it, but it certainly, from the outside, appears that way. And it will attract the younger kids to go where the big kids are. That's the way it usually works. Is that what happens in your neighborhood?
Well, for me, I found that with this park, it's basically it's a lot more parent interaction. I got to be involved with my kid in this park. I can't just sit down and watch her.
Yeah, you
I'm definitely out and moving around, which isn't a bad thing, but it definitely takes out. My daughter likes to go where the older kids are, so she likes to tackle the big thing, but the older kids love it. It is that challenge. It's different.
And just a reminder too, in Memorial, we actually put the ropes equipment in, so we do have a park that already has it, that Memorial Park.
Yeah.
So, Larry, can you mix and match this, or is it just like all one pack? In other words, like, that's just for conversation's sake. You took the Berliner, 5 to 12-year-old, you said, I want to go with the Berliner. But for 2 to 5, you want to go with the Miracle.
I think you can, I don't see any reason why you couldn't.
Do we have to bid those all out separately then?
Yeah, 2 different companies.
No, I'm saying, we have to bid the 5 to 12 out separately from the 2 to 5, and then, the higher and the lower for each one, and.
Well, we can do whatever we want to do. If you just simply say, Larry, we like option, I'll make it up, we like Miracle, and we want to go with option number 2 for both sides, that's what I told Kevin, and that's what he's going to bid out. If you say that, hey, they liked option number 1 for 5 to 12, but they liked option number 2 for the younger, the 2 to 5, we can do that too. So you can mix and match, you can mix the options and stay with the same equipment. We can do whatever you like to do.
So my 2-year-old, she's 2.5, but I think she's tall for her age, and she definitely is on the crazy side. So I'm looking at option 1 and 2, both from Miracle. Those seem like they would appeal to her, and I think, the kids at my school, like the kindergartners and the play structure they have, it's pretty good. It's similar to what we see on option 1 on the Miracle. I also like how there's the swings for option 1.
You're looking at the black and white, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think swings are a pretty big thing. But then when I look at for the 5 to 12, I'm looking at option 2 for both Miracle and Berliner. Option 2 on Miracle seems like, I don't know if the 12-year-olds are going to be that interested. I teach 5th grade, and the play structure that the 5th graders have at school is a lot bigger slides than this. But then I look at the Berliner option 2, and I just think like, wow,
It's a huge slide.
That is awesome.
that's going to get them excited. Like they're going to be climbing on that. Although if you look at that picture, there's that girl on the top, kind of that, right near the top of the slide, and it just looks like she could just hop over those and then climb and hang off the side there. You know, like, and that's, I don't know, 12 feet in the air. So it looks unsafe, but it looks very fun. So, I mean, the ones that I think the kids would enjoy the most are Miracle option 1 for 2 to 5, and then Burliner option 2 for 5 to 12. I don't know if that would look good next to each other.
Well, that is one of the problems, that if you do mix and match, it's not gonna be continuous as far as the theme. I've never done a park where we mixed and matched like that before, and I don't know what it would look like, and as a designer, Kevin might look at me and go,
Yeah.
so, we can probably do what you want. If it was me, I would probably stay with the same company. I think then you'll see there's better flow and continuity in the play equipment. But that's your call.
Yeah, if we were just looking at wanting it to look the best, then yeah, option 2 for both Miracles I think would be pretty good. But then there'd be no swings. So that's
But we could tell them to add swings to it.
okay. So that's, and then so how does that affect the budget then?
Swings aren't that much.
Okay, because that's really the biggest difference between option 1 and option 2 is for the 2 to 5 is the swings, and none of the 5 to 12 really have the swings. But I don't like for the younger kids, the Burliner, those just, I don't know, especially, I'm thinking like, I don't know that I want even a 5-year-old climbing up that high. You know, putting that as their play area.
Okay, audience, do you have any comments that you want to make, suggestions?
Well, she's got twins and she's got some little ones. She was thinking about something with the swings.
Yeah.
More fun.
When you're little, that was my favorite. And when we were rehabbing other parks before, and I've gone out with the residents there, swings, the swings were, people wanted to keep the swings.
Yeah.
So I definitely, for myself, would like to see that. Even though I was on the swing today, I
wasn't gonna say anything.
user, but I still,
Be on the website.
the child inside me likes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's.
That's the issue.
I think it would be okay to have the different equipment, if you could make it look aesthetically and maybe some way and direct. I don't think it's that big of a deal to have, if that would work for you, having things that are right, appropriate for age. I think that's more important than the aesthetics, and I think you can probably aesthetically make it look pretty well.
I mean, I think it's also the colors.
The colors, so are we
Yeah,
looking
too,
at
but
what color scheme we
but
want to go with
this-
tonight, or?
this
or
color-
later?
For Miracle, right, might be this, a different, same blue, they call it, whatever, teal or whatever, could be a little bit different, I don't know. I don't know how standardized these colors actually get between companies.
Well, I tell you what, I know that Kevin was hoping that we would make it a decision here at tonight's meeting.
And what was he thinking?
But since I'm bringing him out here, like for the March meeting anyhow, it might be a good idea for him to come out here and bring some larger color renderings. And I could give him, certainly, if you're interested in the Miracle option number 2, is to say that, there's a swing component that we'd like to have added to that. And then certainly say to him, what would happen if give me some feedback of if we put Berliner for the older kids on one side and the Miracle on the other side, is that it doesn't create a problem, but I think it, aesthetically, does that work? Have you done that before? What kind of issues we need to be aware of that we don't know about? And I'm just putting it out there because I've never done that before.
Right, and I'm also concerned about the cost factor, because usually the larger you get, the better deal you're gonna get. If you're gonna break it up into 2 pieces, you might not get quite the deal. I don't know.
Could be. Well, I'm sure, I think what he's basing this on is basically manufacturer suggested retail price. And the bid price is usually a little bit lower than that.
But you said they've been coming in a little higher though.
Well, their parks entirely,
Right,
construction,
yeah,
come in
okay.
higher. Because they're not gonna charge you more than what their list is on in their
Well, that's true.
catalogs.
So can we postpone this to the next meeting and then get him in here with the color?
Yeah, so why don't we do this? And I'm gonna suggest that because I don't want, he's gonna probably work up some boards, and I don't want him to do 20 of them.
Right,
It's just to come back and say, do some color renderings,
right.
and it sounds like there was an interest in the Miracle option number 2, and then possibly we could look at, what about bringing Berliner in for the older kids, and then maybe option 2, smaller kids,
Kids, right.
and see what kind of feedback we get from them.
Yeah,
but-
see if we can get the colors to at least be the same colors.
Yeah, and the thing is, unfortunately, what he sent us is, there are, if you look at it, the color options there, but they don't show up in black and white.
Right.
Because you see the colors, and that's on me, because I printed it in black and white. But you can see he used orange, teal, azure, and gray. Now, that's easy to say, it's gonna look a little different.
Right.
But I think it also, since we're looking at doing something different, again, just tell me if I'm looking at it the right way. And he may say, hey, I'll make you a color rendering for each one of these.
Right.
That what we want to do is look at the Miracle option number 2. Because it was a swing component, you said?
With-
No, so we could add it.
Yeah, we would like to add this.
Miracle has the swing option one for the smaller guys.
I'd like that merry-go-round.
For those kids.
It's in this option too, Eric. I want that big with swings.
Merry-go-round,
The
yeah.
swings and that merry-go-round, yeah.
So we, again, if he wants to make them all for me, I'll say fine. Or if he wants to send me colored ones of these, that's fine. But
And this one.
Yes.
Berlin with the super slide on it. This
Yeah,
little super
yeah.
slide.
maybe Berlin, you're looking for
I almost
option
want to have
number
my
2.
picture coming down.
Well, you're going to, if you have.
I will, Mark is gonna come with me, he's gonna be my photographer.
So Berlin,
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Well, I was thinking instead of just having 2 separate, like swings for older or younger, maybe you can just have, instead of this like a little baby, we have like, make sure you have 2 of those like side to side, like the swings. So we could just do one for just the older kids and just a little, I guess, like for the older kids, the actual swing. And then this would be like for little kids, we don't have to do like for like different areas, so you can save money there.
How do you think about that, have like a baby child one with the, the straps in front and then one regular traditional
so that's
swing?
all that.
Yeah.
You buy them like that all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it would be just, all we have to do is then determine the height.
Right.
We even had one today, for the, when we did a park dedication today, and one of the swings actually has a component where the parent can sit in it, and then the baby faces the parent, the swing comes out like this, and the baby sits in it.
Percy, right?
So, yeah, so when you're like this, you're facing the child, and that's one we have at our park.
Okay.
So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tell Scott, or tell Kevin that, give us some larger color renderings, that there is interest in the Miracle option number 2 with swings, and the Berliner option, was Berliner option number 2 with the big slide?
Yeah,
With the 5 and 12.
this was cool.
Just,
2 to 5 and 5.
And
This is for me, actually. That's
Yeah, there you go. I want my picture. Facebook, there. So do you need us to do a color preference, or, you want them to come back with some layout?
a lot of times the colors, they're really kind of coordinated, we'll put them together, because they go together a little better. it'll say that you get picked from the color charts.
Okay.
Otherwise, you have the same park design, playground design, and you could probably have 100 different color options. So you know, you have to too.
Okay. Sounds good. So any additional comments?
Come back next month.
Yeah.
And I'm just making sure. The one that you were talking about, sir, was Miracle 2?
Yes.
It was Miracle 2 that you were talking about, the younger children?
I travel for the younger children.
Yeah.
For the younger children, I think both of the miracles are good. The miracles one has the swings already, but if we can add swings, then I think both of the miracles are great for the younger kids. As long as they have swings, I think that's.
Okay, so either one of the first miracles for the younger children, as long as the swings are enough.
Yes,
Okay.
All right. So sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you guys for all your work.
We're more neighbors next month.
Okay. So for item 10, we're going to be voting on resolution 556 for fiscal year 2017-18 mid-year budget transfer request. So, Eric, is there anything?
Sure. As the board is aware, we put $50,000 in the budget in a contingency fund, and the contingency fund is based is for unforeseen emergencies or other operational expenses not previously budgeted in the current fiscal year. We use that basically as kind of taking it, the thing about it is you're taking it out of your savings and putting it into your checking account so you can utilize the money. And I'll quickly go through these. We're making a request for $2,000 in account 2197, which is telephone and telegraph. Terry says that we under budgeted by a couple $1,000, and also $2,000 for underestimated bank and active net fees. The more people charge their credit cards, the more the fees go up. So I'm assuming that's probably being offset by some revenues as well. So in administrative division, we're looking for $4,000 in those two accounts. Recreation division, we're asking for to transfer $3,500 over. Again, more contractors instead of direct employees. So we need to have funds there to be able to pay contractors. And that is usually offset by revenues. Park and facility maintenance, which is one that's a little bit more substantial. We seem to be going through our supplies rather quickly, and so we need an additional $1,500. And Scott, what was focused on what particular item?
Oh, it was just going to be another facility maintenance, you're right?
Yeah, it's been a things. I guess toilets have to come from someplace. The next one is the water account. That one is there's a big unknown out there, and we don't know for in a drought. It's sure beginning to feel like one. So we went from a drought 2 years ago to more water than we normally do last year to a drought again. So Scott, I think is certainly being smart about this. Let's play it safe, because if we don't use money, then it comes back to us. So we'll need $6,000 over. And construction equipment, again, we've got this new guy who's doing a lot of work, so we need to put some additional money for equipment repairs. And also other equipment, we bought all the new chairs, but we needed to have racks for the chairs. We purchased those already, but that just means we're going to be short those funds in the account for the rest of the year. Scott brought up, Alan brought up something earlier about if the board is interested in signing up for the CSEA conference for next year, then we would need to fund that out of this year's budget. And I'm just going to take an assumption. If 3 of you wanted to go, we needed to pay for registrations and also pay for the hotels now in this year's
I
budget.
probably want to pay for the hotels, it's probably only the registration.
Okay, if just registration, I think we can make it work. So we would, I would say we were not going to get extra money. If we did, we'll find it someplace. So in total, we're looking at $22,700. We have 50,000 in contingency. This would leave us a remaining balance of 27,300. And hopefully I will not have to come back to you before the end of the year, but if we did, it'd be for something that we decided we can now, that we weren't aware of. So if the board would support resolution number 556, we can go ahead and do those transfers.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution 556 in the amount of $22,700 to be transferred from contingency.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, is there any questions or further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item 10F, resolution 557, amendment of fiscal year 27-18 budget. So, Larry.
Yeah, I'm sure the board is aware of how this works, but the development agreement we have with Silverado Homes is that they will hire the the landscape architect with our approval. We interview him, we agree with them. Silverado Homes pays the ongoing cost for the design. Usually after every significant milestone, a bill is sent from Firm and Leamy to Silverado Homes. Silverado Homes sends it to me and says, do you agree? And if I say yes, and I usually do, then they pay Firm and Leamy. And at this point, since we're at the 75% mark, the Silverado Homes says, okay, we would like to now seek reimbursement from the district. And keep in mind, the money is coming from the park and loop fees that have been collected from people who bought the homes. So in a sense, the county's collecting money on behalf of Silverado Homes. Silverado Homes is paying the design costs for Firm and Leamy, and now we have it in our money in our account. We need to reimburse back Silverado Homes. Can I go with dots here? So I asked Brian Skillman, I said, don't tell me what you need now, how much you're going to need to the end of the fiscal year. And this is the amount that he's recommended, that we transfer 70,000. Actually, it was like 67 and some change, but I rounded off, because again, if it doesn't get spent, it just stays in the account. And then into next fiscal year, there'll be about $20,000 to $25,000 in additional final design costs. So what we're doing is just pass a resolution allowing us to transfer the money and then make payment to Silverado Homes.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to pass resolution 557 in the amount of $70,000 from fixed asset account 4E2420200.
Second that motion.
Okay, do we have any questions or further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, that is saying, okay, we are at item number 11, the payment of bills. So, does anyone have any questions in regards to our bill report?
We run out to the gym at Bridgepoint on Saturdays. I'm always going by there on Saturdays, and there's people in the parking lot, and I'm just, at the school.
We don't rent it out, it's join us kids are it.
That's on Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm wondering, like, there's teachers that, like, who's at the school on Saturday?
We have passed it.
Okay.
So do you need, two different votes, one for the December and one for January?
We can
Okay. Or you want to combine them?
I'll make a motion to